Some of you might be wondering, what basic tools do I need to start my DIY project? It's another episode of Try DIY with Ebony.
Hey guys, I wanted to come on and give a description of some of the tools that I use and some of the basic tools that would help you in your DIY projects. I started my channel because I want everyone to get used to using different tools and not be afraid of tools. That's the main thing that I hear people say, is that they don't know what to do, or they're scared to use this tool, they're scared to use that tool. So basically what I'm gonna do is go through some of the tools that I use and that you might want to purchase just to get you started, to take some of that fear away. So the first thing is my cordless drill. This is like my absolute favorite. It's a 20-volt cordless drill, and I use it both for drilling and for screwing. There's so many out there on the market, but as long as it has good power and rechargeable battery, you should be fine. My first drill actually was a corded drill, and it didn't have much power, but it did the job. So again, you can find some on the market that are very easy to use and that give you just the right amount of power. The next thing is a electric screwdriver. I can't find mine right now, so actually I just ordered another one. But it's good for, instead of using something like this to screw in outlet covers, I like to just grab my electric screwdriver, and it's quick and easy, especially if you're doing a project like painting a room that has a bunch of outlet covers to go back on. You don't want to spend the time just standing there screwing. But as I'm talking about screwdrivers, the dollar store is awesome, okay? The dollar store, they have all these different screwdrivers, and it's only $1, and they come in handy when you just need to do something really quick and fast, and you don't want to pull out all your tools. So this is an 8-in-1 screwdriver, and this is a 12-in-1 screwdriver. So that's something good just to have on hand. A hammer. I honestly don't think I have ever purchased a hammer. As a matter of fact, this says Haley, so I don't even know whose hammer this is, but it seems like hammers just always show up. So I've never purchased a hammer, but it's always nice to have a good hammer. Some of my projects, my DIY projects coming up, I will actually show you how to actually use a hammer, because I didn't know at first. I used to tap nails in holding the hammer like this, but that's not really doing anything. Holding it so close to the top is not really doing anything. You really want to get that thing and boom, boom, boom. And that's how you actually use a hammer. I didn't know that. The next thing is an electric sander. So I have two. I have this Orbital Sander, and that just means that it's circular. The pads are stuck on by Velcro, and I use this for a lot of my projects to take off paint or something that would be too tedious to do using a hand sandpaper or a sanding block, which I'll get to. But this is my circular sander, and I also have a detail or mouse sander, and it works the same way with the Velcro pads, but it allows you to get into little corner spaces when you're sanding something. So I like having both of those, and they're fairly inexpensive. These aren't expensive tools, and even the cheapest ones actually work pretty well. So if you don't want to purchase that just yet, here comes the dollar store again, because they have sanding sponges, and they don't really give numbers. When you're using sanding sponges, there's normally a range. Like when they talk about grit, it's 60 grit all the way up to like 220 grit. And the higher the grit, the finer the sanding block. So for a 220 grit sanding block, I would use that on, like if I painted something and I want to sand to a smooth coat before I put on another coat of paint, that's when I would use the 220 grit sanding block. But something like this, and they're calling it medium fine grit. This feels like it's about 60 grit and it's rougher. So if I was trying to get paint off of something, I would just scrub it with one of these because it would pull everything off. For it to only be $1 is definitely a good buy and something just to have around. Goggles. I have so many goggles because I lose them all the time and then they end up really just being on top of my head and I just didn't know. But there's so many different kinds. Like, I like the ones that really look like glasses. So that's pretty cool. These are like the chemistry lab type kind that you can still use. I have some that can fit over glasses. Like if you wear glasses, you can use this kind of goggles. But my suggestion is to have several pairs because they do get misplaced as you're doing your projects, even though you should try to keep them on throughout the project just for your safety. Masks. We're all used to wearing masks already. This actually also came from the dollar store. There's 2 in this pack, so it's good for, you know, sanding. Like I said, when you're spray painting or using oil-based paint or varnishes, you want to use something with a little more filter to it that helps you to filter out those fumes and vapors and dust particles. So something like this, we all heard N95. This one is a P95 and that's fine. It has a filter on it and you use this when you're spray painting or painting. Spongy brushes. This is something I always have. I have a million of these laying around because they're good for glue. They're good for paint, just touching up areas of paint. Any kind of liquid that you want to use and you can just throw it right away. Again, the dollar store, for 8 of these, you can't beat that. A tape measure. I didn't bring my tape measure out, but having a good tape measure is actually pretty important. When I first started doing my DIY projects, I had one of those old school sewing tape measures that I would use to measure my projects, the little flimsy one. But now I have several tape measures. I don't know where they are right now, but that's another thing that you might want to have several of. You want to make sure it's at least 25 feet. I like the ones that you can clip on to the side of your belt so that they don't get lost during your project. There are so many different ones, and I didn't see that at the dollar store actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but splurge a little on that one. The square measuring tools. So you'll see in a lot of my DIY projects that I use this tool a lot. I love it because it helps to make sure that my projects that I'm trying to make a square don't end up being like a diamond. So when you sit this in the corner of the project, you know that your square and your corners are correct. So this is really maybe about $5, relatively inexpensive, and they do come in different materials, but I like this plastic one for everything I do. This is a T-square, and it sort of does the same thing that I'm saying with this corner square, because it helps you just to make sure that everything is lined up. No guessing. Either it is straight or it isn't straight. It's that kind of black and white measurement. What else do I have here? I have my levels. Levels are always important. I have all different sizes, some even smaller than this and one way bigger than this. Back to the dollar store. Dollar store is getting it in. Normally, I use these tablecloths to protect whatever surface I have, and you can just roll it up and throw it away. What I did find is that they have tarps that you can use, which are pretty cool and will cover and protect your floor. They also have these drop cloths, and it's 9 feet by 12 feet, so that's a lot. So if you can actually cover the whole floor of a room with this kind of drop cloth from the dollar store. And this kind of stuff at Home Depot is between, well, I'll say $5 and up. So it's definitely a good buy. Another dollar store find, I don't know where it went, but these little clamps I found, these are cool. with your DIY, your DIY projects. Because if you're, let's say you glued something using your wood glue and it's small, you can use one of these just to clamp it. I thought these were cute. And then this is a utility knife. It's always good to have one of these on hand. It doesn't have to be this kind or this flimsy. I didn't open them yet, but these are good for like sharpening your pencils or just small cuts that you need to make. So another one of my favorite things, and this is one of the first tools that I started with my DIY projects, is a miter box. It allows you to cut different pieces of wood in angles. Most of them come with a saw, and so what you do is put the saw into the coordinating side, and that's how you can make your own miter cuts without having a complete miter saw. Now, I love my miter saw. That's absolutely, maybe one day soon I'll do a power tool demonstration. But before I had that, I was making miter cuts and all kinds of different cuts for my projects. So it is possible to have this without, to do projects without having power tools. If you do get something like this though, this thing is so important. It comes with two. I don't know where the other one is, but my one, it actually holds the wood in place. And that's pretty important once you get to sawing in here. You don't want your piece of wood to move all around. You want it to be able to stay where it is so you can get as precise a cut as you can. So if you decide to get one of these, make sure it comes with these two peg things, and they go in all different holes all around. Another dollar store find was this little hacksaw. I just thought that was so cute. I don't know what I'm gonna use it for or if it even works, but this is the kind of stuff that I'll just have on hand just in case I need it, because you never know what sizes of things that you'll need, and it just helps to build up your toolbox. I actually have so many other tools, but I thought this would be a good demonstration for those who are interested in getting into DIY projects, but you feel like you might not have what you need. You don't really need a bunch of stuff, just the basics. I think the biggest purchase here would be the cordless drill. And once you get that, you're good to go. So that's it. That's all. Thanks.